you've ever sat back and heard that song, it is really, it's crazy. My man says, whatever I get, you get. You can have. Ultimately, saying that you're not gonna ever meet another man like me if somebody, for some odd reason, if we don't make it, my footprint has been placed so high to the point where it's gonna be very difficult for another man to fill that space. That's a lot said. That's a lot said. When you're in a situation where you are in place and whatever that person's dream or desire, you fulfill. Apologize. Sorry about that. Meaning that everything that you as a person have thought of, you fulfill those dreams and desires. We've had more good times than we had bad. And it's really been a great opportunity and time to spend time with a person that does that. Now, whether you make a decision to jeopardize that because it's not how you all want it to be, you want everything, it has to be your way, then when you get out of that position, it can be very difficult choice to have made, because now you've had an opportunity to see how a person does, and then you go on and you move into another situation, and that situation does not provide that to you. Now you're saying, well, and maybe then the next situation after that, and then the situation after that. And by the time that you look at it and you turn around, you done spent 3 or 4 years, and you still are in a position where you're not happy. And, that's a difficult situation to be in, because truthfully, is it something to the point where your thought patterns and thought processes maybe have been because it was always about you, and not identifying the simple fact that you're not the only one that has to be in a please status or a please mode. And I get it. But I think the first time is when you realize the fact that people don't recognize when a man says, hey, this is how I feel. And you have to have some conversations with people, and they be like, hey, I have the right to feel how I feel. I have a right for that. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But I still have that right, because you have the right to feel how you want to. And because it's not going a certain kind of way, then you look at it as if, hey, I'm not happy. Sometimes you got to realize there's another person that's involved. And what you're trying to find is equality. What you're trying to find is equality to the giving. You're trying to find equality to the emotional, giving of give and take. That's a situation that you have to really look at and identify too. Because just as every woman seeks to be happy, every man seeks to find peace. And so we have to identify what brings us peace, what brings us hope, because a certain age group of guys, they've chosen to give themselves and make themselves the second person in the situation in a lot of cases. And sometimes it's not identified, sometimes it's not even spoken on. But I guarantee you there's a lot of guys out here that's going to listen to what I'm saying and going to be able to say, hey, you know what? I know exactly how this man, what he's talking about, what he's saying. Because, I think a lot of people don't understand the sacrifices that men put, and I think they give. And so when you look at it from a standpoint of saying, hey, I not only provide protection, provision, and someone who's willing to ride it out. We will make decisions. Sometimes they're going to be good decisions, and sometimes they're going to be bad. But at the end of the day, we know that if we are doing what we're supposed to do, the end of the day is making sure that home is good and taken care of. I'm not justifying any situation in that. I think that that's a part of healing also, that we have to go through and identify, because we have to find out why we are making some of the decisions that we're making, and identify sometimes everyone doesn't have same interests, similar interests. They don't. They don't have similar interests. And can you place yourself in a position where if you have dissimilar interests, how can you function? If you can't function, what is your next plan of action? And so we have to really truly identify the next plan of action. We sit back and we'll talk and we'll, shoot the shit. But I think that we have to identify and recognize where we are and what we're trying to do. And sometimes, you get it, sometimes you don't. But I think that you have to put yourself in a position where you can identify some things. Hey, listen, this is what it is. And be okay with that. Be okay with it. Be totally okay with that particular situation. We have to heal. We got to heal. And we have to be able to say, hey, I'm right now where I am, and how can I better myself? How can I better myself? How can I put myself in a better situation? How can I do all of these type of things? And I think that once you get to that point, you're going to hit a wall. And when you hit the wall, you're going to have to identify, hey, listen, I'm at a wall place. This can be very detrimental to everything that I got going on. Very detrimental. And being able to identify where you are is the first part of trying to heal. Because you have to be able to look in the mirror. You have to be able to say to yourself that I'm in a place right now where I need to sit back and just learn. I need to pay attention to what's going on right now. I need to pay attention. And by pay attention, it's going to better myself to the point where as I can say, I see my errors. I see my errors and I see my issues and concerns. And if the Lord allow, I'm going to try to make those corrections. I'm going to try to make those changes. And that's what it's about. Identifying, adapting to change. Sometimes we don't like change. Sometimes we don't. I mean, you know, that's a hard pill to take when you have to change, and you know it shows that you may be the one that's the problem. So, how many relationships have I sacrificed when you were the problem? As a man, I have to realize and identify that. I joke around. I talk. You know, sometimes people might say, "Damn," and it's no disrespect or anything. I'm not trying to take over any conversation. But if someone asks me a question, I'm going to give it out. I'm going to blossom like a flower. Because I'm going to give everything, every information. I'm not just going to give you tidbits. I'm going to give you the full thing. And I know some people, they live in a cliff note mentality. Sometimes, just get to the point. I don't have that time. I can identify that. And I'm trying to break it down to the point where everybody can get some information from it. So for the person that runs on cliff notes, it's not always about you, which means that I could be saying something to someone that they may need that breakdown. They may need that understanding. So the information that I'm trying to give is abroad. It's not necessarily geared to say, hey, we're going to fast pace this. Everyone is not fast paced. Some people, you have to tell it to them a couple of times and let it go into their brain and identify, oh, I see what he's saying. I now identify. Sometimes you can tell somebody something for 3 or 4 times and guess what? They'll say, I got it. Each time they'll say, I got it. But it may take 4 or 5 times for them to say, I got it. I see what you're saying now. And that's through repetition. But a person has to first want to be able to retrieve that information. If they don't want to retrieve it, I don't care how many times you say it. Those are the ones that'll be following, trying to find that footprint. And what I talked about earlier, if a person impress enough or big enough footprint into your life, when they are gone, that's a lot of damn mass to cover. That's a lot of mass to cover. And the same thing goes with a female. If you get that woman in your life and she's, she fits all of that, and you fuck around in here and let your ego or your mentality cause that to end, that's on you. That's on you. You got to eat that one, big boy. Or you got to try to make right by it and identify, okay, how long am I going to give it to make it right? And when you say to yourself, okay, well, hey, so maybe this is just how that's going to go. Maybe I have to love from afar. And loving from afar means that I have to be able to say, hey, I'm okay with you being where you are because I was not providing that for you. And if I think that I've changed, or whether or not I'm willing to change, is the process of what I have to identify to say, where am I? Why am I making these changes? And what type of changes what's going to be the recourse behind that? Because just because you can understand it, it doesn't mean that the next person will. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, I appreciate you guys spending the time with me, listening to what it is that I'm saying. I hope you got some fruits out of this. I hope you got some knowledge from it. Smoke well, always smoke well. You know, I'm up. I'm disappointed because my Falcons lost, and I say to myself, hey, listen, we got to do something. You can't expect for people to continue to keep going through this hardship, man. It is what it is. You know, I've had conversations with, you know, some of my people, man, and they follow different fans. They follow different teams. And I never forget one of the conversations that I had, you know, with my brother. He was like, yeah, man. I said, man, why can you be a, you know, so-and-so fan? He said, man, hey, you know, they'll just let you down all the time. And I don't know what it is, you know, or what's more important. Because I think it really shows a lot about your home pride and where you represent and what you call home. You know, and if you're living in a transient city, it's hard to get that type of support or that demand to have that type of team. Because if you got 80-90% of the people that are from your state still here in this state, in this city, what you represent, and then everybody follows 80% of it is 90% of it is Falcons fans, what you're gonna see is that they're gonna demand that you bring in players and positions and coaches and ownerships that want a winning franchise. You're gonna identify that. But when you're living in a transient city, there's not a lot of support. Yeah, they'll come to the games, but they got on everything, their paraphernalia. When you come into a stadium and you know that your colors are red and black, and you look in a stadium and half of the stadium is yellow and gold, or blue and silver, or orange and black, or whatever color it is, that's a problem. That's a problem. So you got to make sure that you win over the ones that are here. And especially if you're in a major city, it's just too much. You got to fight with. And the one thing I will tell you this: people follow winners. As much as we try not to identify. Oh, we like the. It's about the way that you played the game. No, it's about at the end of the day whether that is a win or if it is a loss. I don't care if you won by 1.5 points, 0.5. I won. And that's just how life is. It ain't about how you played the game. It's about whether or not you won or you lost. And winners get statues. Winners get the money. Winners get the land, the property. They get the information that if you're not levy to or privy to have. If I'm in a meeting and I'm with a bunch of guys that it's about money, I have to think about what level of what region of the pyramid that I'm in. If I'm in the top tier of the pier, then I must really trust this person that had brought me into this opportunity. If I got 3 or 4 other guys over me, it just shows me the level of where they brought me in at. As long as I'm not at the bottom tier of it, we cool. Because we already know bottom tier is going to do all of the work and all the support for each level of the pyramid to go up. There's going to always be one point. Then you got 3 or 4 blocks around that. Then you got 3 or 4 blocks around that. Then you got 3 or 4 blocks around that. Then you got 12 or 15 around that. And you know how it goes down. It goes down just like the pyramid. You know, we always talk about corporate. Corporate is a form of it. You know, different pay scales, different limits, different access to opportunity, all of that. You know, so once you identify the factor of where you are, you'll become a better person. Once you identify a factor of where you want to be, you'll thrive to be in a better situation. I know I went extended. I apologize about that. But I just hope that it was good knowledge for you. Opportunity. Check it out. Like it, subscribe it, comment. You know, I give cigar reviews. I do all of it. Talk about life, everything about it, man. Enjoy. Smoke well, my friends.